I'd like us to mute our
Good
mics
afternoon.
as the last speaker has said. I want to welcome everyone to this platform, but I especially want to mention some names, some big people from in our profession. Um, our former past president of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria is here. Fellow Olumide Akintayo, I welcome you. The current Secretary General for the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria is also on this call. Our fellow Benga Falabi, you are welcome. We expect them to do. Fellow Lulu Ojo, former chairman of the Association of Industrial Pharmacists, is also on the call. I welcome you. Everyone that's taking time to come on this call and be part of this program, you are all welcome. And I see on the call a former chairman of Association of Industrial Pharmacists and current vice president for the Federation of International Pharmacists, that is FIP, Fellow Shola Arin. I can see you on the call. You are welcome, sir. So everyone that has come, like I said, you are welcome. And I know at the end of the day, we'll all have learned more about the new law bill that has been passed into law, the new Pharmacists Council of Nigeria bill, and we'll all know how to apply it into our profession and to make our profession grow and to move forward. Thank you. You're welcome. So I hand over to the chairman of the Board of Pharmacy Affairs, fellow Ajibade, to take over and continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone to this call. You are most welcome. I would like to call on Pharmacist Fuluke Akinirayi, FPSN, to just take a brief introduction of our guest discussants who are well seated to take us on this ride. So over to you, Pharmacist Akinirayi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so delighted to be on this platform again, welcoming our discussants. We appreciate you for being here. And I will start by acknowledging the presence of my Presido for life. That's how I call him, Fam Olumide Akintayo, FPSN. Fam Olumide Bamidele Akintayo is a past president of the PSN. This is a distinguished consultant pharmacist, a powerful speaker who has shaped the healthcare sector in Nigeria and WHO Africa region. He contributed to shaping public policies that led to growth in Nigeria's pharmaceutical manufacturing sector and improvement in medicine access to Nigerians. Our fellow Olumide Akintayo, he was a country representative and council member of FIP, as well as a council member of West Africa Postgraduate College of Pharmacy. Yes, he has been recognized for his contributions to the healthcare and pharmaceutical sector through awards by many institutions, including the Guardian newspaper, This Day newspaper, Professional Excellence in Nigeria, to mention but a few. He is a Chief Executive Officer of Togmed Ventures Limited, a health and pharma management company. Kindly join me in welcoming our honorable pharmacist Olumide Akintayo to the platform. You are welcome, sir. I have pharmacist Elijah Mohammed.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome, sir.
Yes. I have now pharmacist Elijah Mohammed, our double prophet. Fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, is a holder of B.Pharm from University of Benin in 1984, Master in Business Admin from Edo State, EPOMA in 1999, and Master of Science and Health Management from the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Fam Mohammed was a very active person in organized pharmacy and was former National Secretary of PSN. He was also the National Treasurer. He was National Financial Secretary and the Secretary PSN Technical Committee on NHIS. He has been Secretary of the African Pharmaceutical Forum since 2006. A member
Sakinori, we can't hear you.
of the Commonwealth Pharmaceutical Association, International Pharmaceutical Federation, and working as second discussant. You are welcome, sir. I have before us here my good friend, pharmacist Dr. Lolu Ojo, FPSN. He's a graduate of University of Ife, now known as Obafemi. Can you please hold and pause? Hello, somebody is distracting. We have Dr. Lolu Ojo, FPSN, is a graduate of University of Ife, now known as Obafemi Awolowo University. Graduated in 1984. He held an UAPCP. He worked in Roche Nigeria Limited, where he rose to the post of marketing manager before leaving for Coca-Cola Nigeria Limited. He founded Merit Healthcare Limited in 2005, where past national chairman of Association of Industrial Pharmacists of Nigeria. Please join FPSN. You are welcome, sir. Join me in welcoming our discussant. You are welcome, sir. We have the last but not the least, Modi Esquire, who is a graduate of Faculty of Pharmacy, Unigate, of 1976. He bagged postgraduate diploma in business management in 81 and also a Bachelor of Law in 1998. He was called to Nigeria Bar in 1999. Pharmacist Chiedu Modi started his pharmacy career at Nicholas Hawks Laboratory in 1979 and rose to a management level before he left the company to found his business, Coca Pharmacy and Stores, in 1984, and had remained in active practice ever since. Pharmacist Modi, he held positions as past PANS president, served in various capacities in PSN and defunct NAGPP, now known as ACPN. He is a past chairman of Board of Fellows of PSN. He was a founder, he was a member, governing council of PCN, and former chairman, Law and Ethics Committee of PSN. Kindly join me in welcoming our fourth discussant, pharmacist Chiedu Modi Esquire, to this platform. You are welcome, sir. Thank you, and God bless you all. Amen. My chairman, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, my able sister and well-articulated madam, for this wonderful introduction of all our guest discussants. Well, it's my pleasure also to let us know that we also have a legal officer of PCN on this call this afternoon, in the name of Barrister Okoso Daniel Aima Musa, who's a legal officer of PCN. He's also going to be joining us in this discussion, because we understand there will be some things that the PCN angle must also be brought to bear, in as much as we have our former registrar on the call. Although he may not be here now, but it's going to join us shortly because he's in the program right now. Well, This particular topic that we have brought forward for discussion is a topic that is germane, especially in the pharmacy circle today. We are all aware that many times we have had the cost to say severally that so many things are happening to pharmacy, but the law that we have is not strong enough to match the reality. And that is why we have been involved in trying to see how the new law will be brought to bear in pharmacy. And to the glory of God, on the 30th of August 2022, a new law of Pharmacy Council of Nigeria was enacted and was signed into law by the president, Muhammadu Buhari. And when that law was signed, everybody jubilated because we believed that most of the challenges that we have attributed to the absence of a realistic law that governs pharmacy practice will be rested. And we know that for several years, the practice of pharmacy suffered, and it was because of the fact that we have inadequate law to handle reality in the practice space. And for this reason, it was challenging, and the battle had been on. We are all aware that there were several litigation in various courts that were limiting the activity of PCN, that's our regulator. And we also know that many of these court cases also affected the effective enforcement and the regulation of PCN. And also, we know that by this, various players in the pharma sector has always been pushing for a new pharmacy law. But in 2014, when the former registrar of pharmacists, Elijah Mohammed, when he came on board, when pharmacist Elijah Mohammed came on board, it is one of the things that he embarked upon about 8 years ago. And we understand around that time too, several court cases that were basically in various courts were quashed to the benefit and advantage of PCN. When the immediate past registrar came on board in 2014, he had to lead a council to see the end of many of all those cases dotting various courts against PCN. And it was this period that the repeal of the former law, which is Pharmacist Council of Nigeria, began. And this several realities in the past environment informed the amendment, which has today become an history. And with several efforts of the council, with the engagement of the National Assembly, we understood that the bill was passed at both House of Representatives and the Senate, and supposed to be transmitted to the President for assent. And there was a time we now realized that the law or the bill was declared missing, and that was under round of challenge. But to the glory of God, today that law is already passed, and every of the parts of that law is what is going to be regulating pharmacy practice going forward. And I believe strongly in this conversation this afternoon, we do not only have just discussants, but we have eminently qualified personalities who have right jurisdiction to speak on the pharmacy practice and regulation in Nigeria. And that is why you will agree with us on Pharmacist Affairs that the lineup of discussants that we have brought to look at this topic with us this afternoon, they are people that are qualified and they are authority in their own rights. And we believe strongly that their position on this law today will go a long way in bringing about understanding and also helping everyone to be able to have good grasp of what this law is out to do in pharmacy practice today. We have two lead discussants in this discussion who are going to be leading this discussion. I'm going to be shedding light on major parts because we look through this Pharmacy Act and we believe strongly that there are some various parts that affect the pharmacist and the pharmacy practice directly. And we feel strongly that those are the areas that we as pharmacists should be interested in knowing what the law is all about. Today, there are two discussants, just like I mentioned. Our past president, Olumide Akintayo, that is a man of repute, the man that has been recognized as firebrand in pharmacy battle axe, He's never resting. When it is issue of pharmacy, it's all out. Pharmacy runs through his blood, and he's going to be taking the lead in this discussion this afternoon. He has several parts he's going to be talking to us about, and I believe strongly when he comes on board, he's going to shed a lot of light on those parts as it affects our practice. We're not going to be in a classroom session. We are going to be reading the section one by one. We're going to be putting life to those various parts of the new Pharmacy Act. We also have the immediate past registrar that's going to be joining us shortly also. He's also going to be talking about it. But while it's to come, the legal officer of PCA, Mr. Barrister Okoso Daniel, will also be shedding light on some parts of that particular Pharmacy Act. So without wasting much time, because we are going to be time conscious, this is a 2-hour event. I want everybody to take optimum concentration optimum benefit of this engagement. So I'd like to welcome to the podium our erudites, firebrand pharmacy battlers, pharmacist Olumide Akintayo, FPSN, to take us on what are the implications on some of the parts of this law to our practice as pharmacists and pharmacy practice in general in Nigeria. Welcome on board, sir. Pharmacist Olumide Akintayo.
Thank you very much, Pharmacist Ajibade. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you very well, sir.
All right, thank you. Well, perhaps I should start by saying, conveying the depth of my appreciation to the Governing Board of Farm Affairs for this invitation. Because time is not exactly our friend, I just like to go straight into the business of the day. And I'd like to start by saying that what is today branded as the Pharmacy Council Act 2022 is largely the brainchild of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. That's not taking anything away, of course, from the PCN itself. I must say that when you look at the law, and as we go on, you probably appreciate what I am trying to say. When you look at a lot of the very critical sections, they are products of resolutions of the annual general meeting of the PSN, product of the Pharmacy Summit 2002 and 2012. And of course, 2014 that you referred to, I was president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. With due modesty, a lot of these things you have in this law actually started from the Law and Ethics Committee of the Council. And yours truly was chairman. And it was our opportunity to bring in a lot of these things PSN had deliberated upon over time. So, but like I said, time is not our friend. So I'd like to go straight to the business of the day. The impression you had given me, my mandate was that my mandate will cover just a few sections. And specifically, you had wanted me to talk about the implication and benefits of the new registers of pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, satellite pharmacy facilities, and for patent medicine vendors, as reflected in Section 16 of these new acts. You also talked about inspection and registration of premises in Part 5, training and internship of pharmacists in Part 7, ethical and dangerous drug in Part 11, and registration of pharmacists in Part 6. So basically what I worked towards was trying to elucidate along those areas you specified. But I believe that I should be in position to do justice to any section that comes up as we go on. Perhaps it is necessary to say again that pharmacy as a profession, as a practice, derives its strength directly from being listed as item 21 in part 1 of the second schedule in the 1999 Constitution. And that's why we say pharmacy drug matters are on the exclusive list. That is why it is only the National Assembly that can legislate on drug matters and by extension pharmacy practice. That is why It is only the federal high courts that can adjudicate on matters bordering on drug matters in pharmacy. And of course, it is only the executive arm, as exemplified by the Federal Ministry of Health and its plethora of MDs, that can enforce pharmacy laws in Nigeria. So it's important to put that on record again. Today, we have in existence only two pharmacy laws. And we have a plethora of other more specific laws called or dubbed drug laws. We have about 8 of them. That would include things like the Pharmacy Act, NAFDAC Act, and all of that. But because of time, we won't be able to go into all of those details. So, in terms of pharmacy laws, today we have only 2, like I said, because this new Pharmacy Council Act 2022 has effectively repealed the old Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, CAP P17, Laws of the Federation 2004, in Section 69. Section 70, however, of the same law today conveys a validity on the old Poison and Pharmacy Act 525, Laws of the Federation 1990. So the only thing that law now provides for is that if there is a conflict between any of those 2 laws, if there are conflicts in any of the sections, the provisions of the Pharmacy Council Act 2022 automatically takes precedence. So coming now to Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Act, the PCN Act 2022 itself, perhaps I should start by saying this law has 13 main, it's divided in 13 main parts and 71 sections. The very first one, the Board of Pharma Affairs has asked me to dwell on extensively is Section 16, which has to do with a register for pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, pharmaceutical premises in general, satellite medicine facilities, and patent medicine shops. Now, the beauty of this and what we will try to dwell on majorly are the benefit packages inherent in each of these sections that have just been enacted. You know, pharmacy laws are leading, they are grounded in very substantial antiquity. The very first laws for pharmacy in this part of the world is a popular pharmacy ordinance of 1886, which metamorphosed after some amendments to a new one in 1902. And then, of course, if you follow the series, there were more amendments in 1945, 1958, 64, 1991, and all of that. But today, I put on record that this is the very first time in the history of pharmacy practice and pharmacy evolution that the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, as a major regulator, is being allowed to register all pharma stakeholders. And that's why, for the first time ever, PCN will generate registers for pharmacy technicians, for patent medicine dealers, for the newly introduced satellite pharmacy facilities, and indeed anybody who wants to be a part of pharmacy, including pharma marketers. What are the benefits? The very first benefit you look at is that the second benefit, like I said, the first benefit is that everybody has been brought under the umbrella or basket of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. 2 is that for pharmacy technicians, for instance, pharmacy technicians are taking the whole Pharmacists Council of Nigeria to court at some point, insisting that because the name was Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, the jurisdiction of the erstwhile PCN was limited to only pharmacists. And because that matter did not enjoy diligent prosecution by the registry of counsel in that in that era because we did not have representation in courts. The Federal High Court at that time in Lagos gave judgment against council, gave judgment in favor of the pharmacy technicians, and that emboldened technicians in the annals of our country. In fact, they were some of the very strong groups that delayed the passing into law of this act of parliament, because at some point they wanted their own board, they wanted their own governing council to regulate technicians in Nigeria. The matter I talked about in court is presently in the Court of Appeal, but of course it's become an academic exercise after this recent development, where formally, for the first time, technicians are now under the umbrella of the PCN, because it's now the jurisdiction of the Register of the New Pharmacy Council of Nigeria to generate a register of practicing pharmacy technicians in Nigeria. The third one, 3, it's the same scenario we had with patent and proprietary medicine vendors license holders. You are aware that the old Poison Pharmacy Act, and that was why I gave that background, because we need to have these occasional references. The old Poison Pharmacy Act actually provided for a situation whereby it is the Minister of Health who delegates powers on who would issue patent medicine licenses in Nigeria. And that's why at some point, these delegation by the Minister of Health was actually given to state governments. In one era, one rascally Minister of Health actually delegated it to local government authorities in Nigeria. And so sometimes in 1994, 95, the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Lagos, and that's why I said a lot of those things were engineered by PSN. You begin to see the PSN Lagos State, under the chairmanship of Mr. Jimmy Agbaji, and I was secretary at that time, took the Federal Ministry of Health to court. We took that matter to court, that even if the Minister of Health is going to delegate this responsibility, then he must delegate it legitimately within the ambit of our existing constitutional framework. And what we were saying at that time was that if drug matters were on the exclusive list and it was within the domain of the federal authorities, then the delegation must also have to be to federal authorities. In 1997, we had an out-of-court settlement, and it was on the basis of that the Federal Ministry of Health, through its minister, delegated the issuance of patent medicine vending to the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. It's important pharmacists have this type of information. And up till last year, I can tell you, patent medicine vendors seriously challenged the approbation in law of the Pharmacists Council at that time to issue licenses to them. They challenged it in several federal high courts across the land and breadth of Nigeria. And to the glory of Almighty God, the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria defeated them in more than 10 of those courts. So that for the records and in pharmacy jurisprudence, more than 10 different federal courts, from Asaba to Kaduna to Lagos and most of these other places, pronounced firmly that indeed the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria has a specific approbation in law to regulate and control the operations of patent medicine vendors in Nigeria. Today, there's no ambiguity. It is clear now that they have to be regulated by PCN, and that's one of the benefits you have in Section 16. There's yet another one. You see that clearly under this register, all pharma premises must have registers, and these pharma premises would include or includes hospital pharmacies in both the public and private sector. You must also understand the background to this, because it was at the PSN AGM in 1996 in Ilorin that myself and pharmacist Mrs. Bolanle Adenera actually moved a motion on the need to have hospital pharmacies registered in Nigeria. And that's why I said so. A lot of these things actually started from PSA. And of course, while we were doing this, the Guild of Medical Directors challenged this in court. But to God be the glory yet again. In 2007, October 2007, in a landmark ruling, the Federal High Court in Lagos ruled that the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria indeed had a specific approbation in law to regulate hospital pharmacy departments in both the public and private sector. And today it's become a reality within the realm of law. Satellite pharmacy. It's also important to talk about this. Satellite pharmacy was actually the brainchild, and I say this with a sense of responsibility. We came up with this concept in PSN, and it was firmed up under the framework of the Law and Ethics Committee of Council in 2014. For many years, pharmacists in academics, hospital and administration, pharmacy especially, clamored they wanted to own their own facilities on the grounds that it was far better to allow pharmacists to do these things rather than to rely on people who could only read and write and all of that. And so we had to work out a compromise position. And today, satellite pharmacies are now recognized under the law, under this law. Now, one of the peculiar benefits that these offers us is that satellite pharmacies, because they will be owned by pharmacists who can run their practice just the way you have in any other routine community pharmacy, will add to the existing 6,000 strong provider network that ACPN members have in Nigeria. So we have an opportunity to add at least another 4,000, because the condition precedent to own a satellite pharmacy is that you need to have at least 10 years post qualification experience. And so I'm sure that from our register, where we have less than 15,000 people, we can still get at least about 4,000 qualified to run satellite pharmacies. What this will do for consumers of health in Nigeria is that Nigerian pharmacists will be able to offer pharmaceutical care in social health insurance under the new amended National Health Insurance Authority Act and the Primary Health Care Development Agency Act. And so, because the National Health Act 2014 already designates pharmacy facilities as health facilities in Nigeria, that means that we are qualified to render primary health care services. And so, these new development gives our people opportunities to render services to consumers of health in Nigeria. It might also offer some form of paradigm shift in terms of wealth creation and the empowerment of our colleagues. And I think as we go ahead, we will be able to solidify some of those expectations. So that takes me to the next mandate, Section 22, and that has to do with the inspection and registration of pharmaceutical premises in Nigeria. Perhaps it is important to quote from Section 22.1 of the new Act. Section 22.1 of the new Act says, any place, please note these keywords, any place used for the purpose of one, dispensing, and I think that is a direct reference to hospital pharmacy premises, because they are the ones who actually carry out the business of dispensing directly. And handling, stocking, storage, these are fundamental key elements that you'll find within the confines of hospital pharmacy practice. Of course, community pharmacies and other pharmacies handle other levels like selling, compounding, distribution, storage too, stocking, wholesale, manufacturing, importation, exportation. So the law says anywhere that carries out any of these endeavors must be inspected and registered by PCN. In other words, Section 32 is saying whether you are in public practice or private sector, once you stock 2 tablets of Panadol or paracetamol, you must be inspected and registered by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. So flowing from that, I will take you straight to section 31 of the Pharmacy Council Act. There is a section 31(1) now that defines the condition precedent to become a pharmaceutical inspector in Nigeria. Well, the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria no longer calls it pharmaceutical inspectors. It actually designates them as pharmaceutical inspection officers. But it's the same thing as them being pharmaceutical inspector. So the condition precedent set in section 31 is that you must be a registered pharmacist. That's the same condition we used to have in section 5 and 6 of the Poison Pharmacy Act to be designated inspector. Section 31(2) of the same act now talks about powers of inspectors of council or pharmaceutical inspection officers to enter pharmaceutical premises at any reasonable time. Section 32 is one that should excite you because for the very first time in Nigeria, beyond gazettes or regulations, the law now gives specific powers to pharmaceutical inspection officers in Nigeria. It gives them, among so many other powers, powers to seal premises, to enter premises, to seal if there are infractions or suspicions that there are violations of the law. They have powers to examine books, documents, computers, indeed, any instrument or tool that is being used to advance practice in any premises they visit. It is not a criminal offense if you obstruct a pharmaceutical inspector. If you decide to press charges against you, it is a huge, huge criminal offense. And if we had all the time to go to where we have offenses and penalties, you see that the penalties are very hefty now. They range from 250,000 to 5 million, depending on whether it is an individual or a corporate organization that commits a breach. The inspectors also have powers because the owners of premises are bound in law now to assist inspectors as necessary. So these are very significant developments. In section 33 of the law, for the very first time, this is made very formal that it is now compulsory, it is mandatory. You're not begging anybody. It is mandatory that all hospital pharmacy departments in public and private sector must be registered. And all of these pharmacies, by virtue of section 33(2), must have superintendent pharmacists. So the beauty of this whole arrangement from section 22 to section 33 is that all of those private hospitals who have gotten used to cutting corners, either through dispensing through their doctors or getting some, and some of them would advertise and bring in pharmacy technicians. Once you do that now, you are committing an offense under the law. And some of us have always taken positions. Private hospitals in Nigeria stock all manners of products, whether they are NAFDAC registered or not. And they have gotten away with it since the establishment of NAFDAC in 1993. That's about 30 years. Now, the man who decides to obey the law in pharmacy suffers greatly because his stock level and all of those things are limited because of the laws, because of the standards we had prior to now. Now, all of those things for the first time can be corrected within the purview and ambit of the PCN Act 2022. So let me go to part 7 because I see the 30 minutes mark for me is almost gone now. That has to do with training and internship of pharmacists. Now, this has been formalized in section 41 of the PCN Act. Section 41 now gives a specific procedure for internship documentation and provisional registration. So no other professional, no hospital management can take precedence over the preceptors who are registered pharmacists in the training uh, in the training of intern pharmacists in Nigeria. I think that's all I will submit on that. Briefly, on ethical and dangerous drugs, that's in part 11. Part 11, if you peruse from section 59 to 62, you see that there are several provisions. But basically, the long and short of what you need to know about that is that we have new regulations on the storage, supply, and dispensing of dangerous drugs. It is now clear within the purview of law that it is the exclusive preserve of registered pharmacists in Nigeria to mix, to compound, to prepare, and supply dangerous drugs. Whatever is classified as dangerous drugs under the ambit of the Dangerous Drug Acts. That's the DDA Cap 48 LFN 2004. So it is only pharmacists who can dispense, who can stock, who can stock, who can supply, who can dispense. You can only dispense two based on the prescription you have from only three sources. The only three group of prescribers registered, recognized under the Poison and Pharmacy Act in Nigeria today are licensed medical practitioners, a registered dentist, and registered vet surgeon. So it is only when you have prescriptions from those three group of prescribers that you can now actually dispense uh, under this new law, as captured in sections 59 to 62. Let me, and I think that's about all my 30 minutes will take. But if time permits, or I don't know, Pharmacist Ajibade, can I just, am I allowed to continue? I should just stop because my 30 minutes appears to be up now.
Okay, let's just add additional 5 minutes, sir, so that in 5 minutes more we can wrap up, because we're still coming back to question and answer session. And I think some of those things will also be relevant. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, one area that I'd like to draw the attention of pharmacists to, in fact, two major areas. Two major areas, and that the very first one has to do with Section 27, which is this new law now has made it a legal thing that it's only pharmacists that can own retail or community pharmacy. Section 27.1. I'm talking about satellite pharmacy. But there's a certain section 4, 27.4, that I have been drawing the attention of pharmacists to, because that part says pharmacists, that section 3, section 27.3, actually allows Nigerian foreign companies to run chain retail pharmacies, provided that a pharmacist or pharmacists collectively have at least 40% equity. So that's the law. Now, if you look at our experience in the recent past, a lot of very gullible and vulnerable pharmacists became tools in the hands of traders. And so they will just go and say, oh, this pharmacy is mine. I've acquired 51 shares. Even when the man just left school yesterday, will tell you he now has money to buy 51% or 90% of shares in a company that has an equity in tens of millions of naira. I need to draw your attention, distinguished colleagues, to a certain section 27.6, which today places a criminal liability on Nigerian registered pharmacists. That section says a pharmacist who makes a false statement under subsection 3 that I refer to, where about 40% shares, carries criminal liability, and on conviction shall pay a fine or face a term of imprisonment. So it is very, very salient that colleagues must critically appraise what they want to get into, so that we will not run foul of this section 27. It is also important to draw your attention to section 47, which has to do with the definition of professional misconduct and infamous conduct, which are direct fallouts of the disciplinary process in pharmacy. Again, I draw your attention and I will tell you that this is a creation of what we had in 2015, the last time we actually had a disciplinary process, a tribunal. The tribunal at that time was led by distinguished pharmacist Bruno Wanko, who was statutorily is the chairman of the council, who is the chairman of the disciplinary tribunal. The president of the PSN is an automatic member of that tribunal. It's a 7-member body. Now, a lot of we had these cases, and there was a need to generate fresh standards and norms in the trial process. Now, what has happened is that everything that we relied on in 2015 has been transmuted to be reflected in sections 47(1) A to I. Let me give you an example of what constitutes professional misconduct or infamous conduct within the ambit of this new law. Section 47(1) A says if a pharmacist lists the publication or circulation of false, misleading, or deceptive statements concerning the practice of pharmacy, he is guilty of professional misconduct or infamous conduct. In fact, a more common experience is reflected in 47(1) C, which says that dispensing or selling of drugs and poisons to unauthorized person would amount to misconduct. I am sure more than 50-60% of pharmacists are guilty of this. We sell to people who are not registered through their premises or through their status because they are non-pharmacists and all that. So these things calls for a lot of caution, and I think pharmacists need to be very, very careful in the months and the years ahead. I want to say a very big thank you to you once again, Pharmacist Ajibade and the entire team at Farm Affairs. I believe this has been I believe that this is a very needful exercise, and I thank you that I am part of this process. Thank you very much, colleagues, for the opportunity, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Can we just give him a round of applause? He has taken his time to go through and dwell on those provisions of the Act, and he has also painted the color, how pharmacists should begin to see things going forward. I believe this is a very good insight. We want to appreciate you. Thank you so much, sir, for that opportunity to hear from you. At this juncture, I'll be calling on Barrister Okosun, the PCN legal officer, to also shed light on some of the sections of this particular Pharmacy Act. So over to you, Barrister Okosun Daniel Aimomusa. Thank you. Hello, Barrister Daniel. Are you in the house? Please unmute your mic. You are muted so that you can speak. Kindly unmute your mic. Kindly unmute. Barrister Okosun Daniel, kindly unmute your mic. We cannot hear you if you are speaking. Just go to your screen. You will see your mic. Just click on it to mute it. Thank you. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Permit me first and foremost to quickly thank the chairman and members of the Pharmacies Affairs, chairman of the board, Pharmacist Ajibade, and also my registrar for the privilege to take us through some sections of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Act 2022. I've had the pleasure of listening to my learned friend. Let me call him Barrister Olumide. I've had the very privilege of listening to him for some years now. It's always an honor to hear him speak. He has done a lot of justice to those sections, as I've done in so many since this law came into being 16th of August 2022. I've had the privilege of discussing most of these sessions with a lot of pharmacists and a lot of stakeholders. And I can tell that Barrister Olumide has actually done justice to those sessions that he handled, and there will be no need to even go into them. He has even delved into some of the sessions that I will be talking about. So it's a bonus for me. I'm sure that we'll be able to run through them in the next 25 minutes. Okay, I'm told to speak on just elucidate on part 1, part 2, then offenses and penalties and professional discipline. Now, as we all know, this law has been a clamor for pharmacists and those that love the profession for years. Now, having come into being, we are also aware that a lot of persons will want to take advantage and begin to look for loopholes in order to puncture the law. There's no perfect document, like I keep saying. In some forums, some persons were faulting or they attempted to fault some sessions, and I quickly made mention, I had to correct them that there's no perfect document. Every document is geared towards attaining perfection. So we actually are looking forward to such criticism or such attacks, so to say, that would emanate from the execution of this implementation of this law. Section 1 actually talks about the establishment of the council. So it is no longer the Pharmacist Council, it is now the Pharmacy Council. And the reason for that is quite simple. The speaker before now made mention of some of the challenges with a lot of stakeholders, PPMVL especially, and the technicians and technologists who before now kept saying that it is a pharmacist council, and so it is only for pharmacists, and the council should not regulate their affairs because they are not pharmacists. However, myopic that sounds, and that is not, it's quite laughable to even talk about it that way, but that is actually what we have found. And we have had reason to be in court for years. And your work as a regulator is put on hold because someone just raised a very things that you cannot even imagine anybody would raise by virtue of the fact that it is called Pharmacist Council. So this in itself is to me, a good step in the right direction, because we're talking about the Pharmacy Council, no longer the Pharmacist Council. So you cannot, on the basis of the fact that it is called Pharmacist Council, say that you cannot be regulated, you know. So the Act establishes the council as a body corporate. We will not delve into that because those are just, they are consistent with every laws in Nigeria. But let's look at the composition of the council, section 2. That adds to the council, to membership of the council, the Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, or his representatives, and also adds the registrar of the council and 3 members of registered technicians, 3 pharmacy technicians that are registered with the council. So we see that there is an addition to the membership of the council. These 3 persons, or these 3 offices, have been included to the composition of the council? Well, some persons feel that this makes the council so over bloated that we are grappling with the current large composition of council. So why are we adding more people? Why is the law accommodating more persons in the council as members of the council? Now, first and foremost, I would say that most of these things were born out of a lot of negotiations, give and take, national assemblies, should I say, interest here and there. And we have been able to come with something that we think at the end of the day would make sleeping dog to lie in terms of a lot of agitations from different corners. But while doing that, we have not lost the, should I say, the hold of the pharmacy profession on the council, because we're talking about the pharmacy council. And so it must, as a matter of all honesty, be controlled or should be directed by the pharmacists themselves. Now, having said that, we look at section 3 that talks about the appointments and tenure of members of the council. Now, what this law does is actually to further bring to bear the offices, members, responsibility for members and the chairman of the council. Like I said in the last lecture I did give, the fact that this law makes provision for vacancy for the post of the chairman and also vacancy for every member of the council makes it very, very interesting. In this law, the seat of the chairman and the seat of any member of the council can actually be declared vacant. And that is something that I think that pharmacists should be interested in knowing, because hitherto there was no provision to say when a chairman goes out of line, you know, there was nothing to should I say regulate or control to checkmate his perhaps excesses, his demeanor and all those stuff. But this law actually brings different brings about, has actually outlined when the office of the chairman can indeed be declared vacant, and those of the members, so that it is not just the fact that you are now chairman of the board, that you are now a member of the council, and so you can do and not do. No, the law says that if these things, there are certain things in the sessions talking about your compus mentis, your mind, whether you are sane, talking about the fact whether you are capable of discharging your duties, whether you are solvent or you are insolvent. Those requirements to remain in office is indeed a welcome development for pharmacists and also for the PCN. Section 4 talks about the functions of the council. I think here it's actually a win here, because this section was expanded by virtue of the global benchmarking that the Pharmacy Council had to go through. It opened the eyes of the most of us and also stakeholders to understanding that there are certain words that must be used in our laws in order for it to bite and not just back. And so the functions of the council in section 4 has actually been expanded to accommodate the fact that the end process of a license, of a registration process, is licensure, and that the powers of the council include to grant license. You know, we took it for granted because the former law, the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria Act, P17 LFN 2004, did not actually capture this function as it is. It was done out of, should I say, common sense and the tradition. After all, I register you, I should give you license. But this Pharmacy Act clearly spells out the fact that the end process of any registration is the license, and that the council has the power to grant the license, has the power to even revoke the license. That in itself is a new section and innovation that I think that we as lawyers and those that love the pharmacy profession, looking at this law, we are very, very proud of the Pharmacy Council and also of the PSN and everybody involved in this law. We see that also the section, the functions of the council has actually been expanded to talk about specific mention of the technicians, the pharmacy technicians, and the patent medicine vendors. This was absent. In fact, we had to rely on the letter of authority by the minister before now to grant PCN the power to regulate patent medicine vendors. Now, what this meant before now, the kind of lean rope the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria was treading on as at then was the fact that a minister can wake up tomorrow and say, I don't want the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria to be the licensing authority. And so I remove the power to license patent medicine vendor from the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, and I give it to the state ministry, for example. That was the kind of lean rope we're treading on. But this law has put that to bed. It has laid that to bed. It is clear now that we do not need kind of the powers from the minister to issue license or to regulate patent medicine vendors. You are aware, some of us are aware that before now that was a major problem because we had cases where they challenged the power to delegate the power to license patent medicine vendor to the Pharmacist Council. That power to the minister is delegated. Therefore, the minister cannot delegate that same power to the council. Though we did win that case, but it was actually a thing that we needed to look into. So as it is now, we don't need any delegated authority from the minister. It is straight up the licensing authority for patent medicine vendors, for pharmacy technicians, for pharmacists in Nigeria, or anybody, any form of cadre that tomorrow will come up, is the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria. This in itself is a major improvement. So if we look at those sections, we did retain the omnibus section that has helped us before now in arguing most of these cases, that the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria is the governing body, the only regulatory body that is charged with the responsibility of controlling the practice of pharmacy in Nigeria in all its aspects and ramifications. So that is part one of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Establishment Act 2022. Part two talks about the registrar and other staff of council. I will not dwell much here because when you were talking about appointment, function, and tenure of the registrar of the council, that will just be my major area that I will dwell on. Every other aspect, I'm going to just gloss over them because we're talking about other aspects, talking about the staff of council, zonal offices, the cooperation with other bodies, which in itself may not be an issue for us here. So the registrar, by virtue of Section 5, is to be appointed by the council. Now, the minister appoints, the president appoints the chairman on the recommendation of the minister. But the good news about the registrar's appointment is that it is done by the council. The council appoints the registrar. It is not in the hands of politicians. This is important for us, that the man or the woman who heads the affairs of the regulation of pharmacy in Nigeria should not be by way, so to say, of political appointment. It should have and some elements of contributions from the profession itself. It is the duty of the profession itself to appoint, to elect and appoint its registrar, and that would be by criteria that is set up by the council itself. This was actually one of the areas that we battled with the Ministry of Health. I don't know if the Ministry of Health is here, but it was an area that some sections of the Ministry of Health raised concern that it should also be, since the registrar is a member of the council, then he should also be appointed by nominated by the minister. But then we made a very strong case that this is like the number one regulator of the pharmacy practice in Nigeria. Let us leave it for the professional to do their work, to know and bring out criteria and requirements for the registration, for the appointment of the registrar. And I think common sense did prevail, and we're able to get this session in place. So it is an appointment by the council. And the functions are they are all there. The last speaker talked about the register of the three registers that the registrar of the council would be in charge of. So one of his major duty is actually to be in charge of the registrar. He is the secretary to the tribunal, and the criteria, the requirement for his appointment is 20 years post-graduation experience. And like I said earlier, he's now a member of the council, which means that he can actually be in any committee of the council. He is not only to be seen and not heard. Right now, he can be seen and be heard in the council right now. So his contributions and his votes are as weighty as any member of the council. That is, to me, a win for the pharmacy profession. And like I said, he has the responsibility of keeping and maintaining the registers, and subject to the supervision and control of the council. He actually shall hold office for a term of 4 years. So we see that he holds office for a term of 4 years and can actually be extended, be renewed by another term. And after that term, no more. I must also draw us back to the fact that the office of the chairman now holds appointment for 4 years, no longer 3 years. That's an addition of 1 year from the previous law. So it is also by virtue of section 3 sub 1 sub 3b, there are conditions that can be stipulated in the letter of appointment. That is why I said it's a win for the pharmacy profession, because this can be regulated by the profession itself, by the council, not by politicians. It is regulated. You can specify conditions that you want as a council to see in a registrar, in anybody that will hold the position of a registrar. This has never been there. And I think that this in itself, as I said, is a win for the profession. Provision is made for his resignation if he wishes to resign his appointment as registrar, and provision is made for when his office can be declared vacant. Like I said, let me not go over it, let me not overflog this provision. This is very important. Lawyers will know that this in itself is very, very germane to checks in any institution. So, Section 6, we see the board, other officers of the council, the other staff of the council, gives power for appointment of staff, zonal offices, making zonal offices, setting up of zonal offices, then cooperation with other bodies. This for me is enough for the council to now bite. Part 1 and 2 has given council the privilege. Should I say, is it a privilege now? The powers, the might to not only back, but also to bite. Then we quickly look at the offenses, penalties, and offenses. And this is section 52 to section 58. And then we will come back to section 45 that talks about professional discipline. Now, like the last speaker said, the fact that our laws, our repealed act, actually did not do justice to penalties, awarding appropriate sanctions for, breaches in the provisions, actually made it look like we're just trying as much as we can to regulate with so much burden. Because at the end of the day, the highest form of penalty was 1,000 naira. And anybody can pay 1,000 naira and not feel anything. But this section, this part 10, brings about more stringent penalties. For instance, any person who knowingly makes a false statement pursuant to section 52. Now, if you make any false statement for the purpose of procuring the registration of any name, premises, qualification, or whatever, you've committed an offense. This is a straight event. If you write what is not true, so if you fill your forms to council, and council finds out that most of your entries, the entries in your application will found them to be false, you have, by these provisions, committed an offense. If you make a false statement, you have committed an offense. And any person who is not registered as a pharmacist, or as an intern, or a pharmacy technician, or a patent medicine vendor, or a satellite medicine facility, and you hold yourself as someone who is so registered or who is a pharmacist, meanwhile you are not registered, and you hold yourself as a pharmacist or as a technician or as a vendor, by virtue of this provision, you have committed an offense. And this provision also makes provision for the sanction, the appropriate sanction when you commit these offenses. It says in subsection 3 sub A that a fine of at least 500,000 naira for somebody who makes false statements. So you see a fine of 500,000 naira. And for anybody, if it's not a person, it is 1 million naira or imprisonment for 2 years. Okay, let's look at it. you lie on oath, as in you fill your forms, and the entries in the forms are false, are found to be false. By virtue of this provision, you have committed an offense, and upon sentencing, you are liable for a term of 1 year or a fine of at least 500,000 naira. Least 500,000 naira. Then, for a person who is not a pharmacist, who is not a technician, who is not a vendor, who is not registered as a pharmacist, technician, or vendor, but holds themselves in that capacity or practices in that regard, you are not licensed and you're practicing as a pharmacist. The law says you are not a pharmacist. Upon conviction, you are liable to a fine of 1 million naira or imprisonment of 2 years. That is what subsection 3, sub B says. Now, for body corporates who give false information, we find out that the information given by the company, they're found to be false. You're liable by virtue of section 52 sub 4A to a fine of at least 2 million naira, and then if it is the body corporate that is that practices without registration, you put your signboard, very big pharmacy or vendor, you are practicing as a pharmacy or as a vendor, as a patent medicine store. The law says that if you are found liable, you've committed an offense, and you are, upon conviction, you are liable to a fine of 5 million naira only. Now, you can see that these provisions, they meet up with best global practices. No business will want to chunk out 5 million naira for non-registration. How much would registration cost you that you will go and pay 5 million naira, and not to talk about the rigors of litigation? And so section 52 part 10 actually meets up with best global practices. Then we look at the requirements for superintendent pharmacies for any business. That's subsection 5 of the Act. It is important for us to understand that apart from these general offenses in subsection 52, subsection 53 to 56 talks about offenses that actually this I just 52 is all about general offenses, but 53 to 56 talks about other offenses and prosecution, arrest and prosecution of anybody found to contravene, to be in breach of the provisions of this Act. So section 53 talks about obstruction of a pharmaceutical inspection officer. We found out that during enforcement or during monitoring exercise and inspection, pharmaceutical inspection officer gets a lot of stick from vendors, mainly vendors, not pharmacists. But this section actually try as much as we can to arrest that situation. Resisting a pharmaceutical inspection officer is an offense by law. And breaking of seal. So once a seal is placed in your premises, it is unethical for you as a pharmacist to remove the seal or to break the lock. The law says that if you obstruct or if you break seal, you have committed an offense, and upon conviction, you're liable to 2 million naira, to payment of the fine of 2 million naira or imprisonment for 2 years. So what will it take you to just go and meet the the inspection officer and get things sorted out rather than going to courts, the rigors of litigation, and at the end of the day, you are fined with 2 million naira, or you stay in prison for 2 years. So this law has actually bring to fore the reason why pharmacists must uphold ethical practices. I'll be talking about the professional discipline after this. But I must say that it is appalling to know, because we have seen them several times, where pharmacists in states like River States, some in Ogun States, Osun, and one in Lagos, where we see pharmacies, they break seal. They just break the seal and they open the shop. And also in Kogi State, we have seen such.
To stop it.
Okay, let me quickly round up. So section part 10 actually deals with these very offenses, general penalties and offenses that, to my mind, are very stringent, and it will help in regulating the pharmacy practice. Then we look at section 5, section 9, section part 9, that talks about professional discipline. What I want to talk about, when I'm talking about professional discipline here, we're looking at the investigating mechanism, the panel, the tribunal, what constitutes professional discipline, what constitutes professional misconduct. It is a misconduct for you to breach any aspect of the Pharmacy Act. So if you are not registered as a pharmacist and you hold yourself as a pharmacist, or you practice as a pharmacist for that year, it is a misconduct. And by law, you can't be brought to the tribunal for professional discipline by law. But a good thing about this provision for professional discipline is the fact that even the patent medicine vendors can now face the panel. They can now face the panel that will in order to appear before it to explain why. So to my mind, these areas of the law, these expanded areas of the law, has actually put to bed a lot of questions arising or emanating from the regulation of patent medicine vendors, the discipline of patent medicine vendors. They can go scot-free when they break seal, when they do this and that. I think that all we need to do right now is think about how we're going to strengthen the council in order to meet up with the obligation that has been placed upon it by the law. You will agree with me that for the council to actually meet up with this obligation, it will take a lot of resources, both human and capital resources. And so I think that the law in itself, as it is now, has given the pharmacy profession a new facelift, if you ask me. And I think, to my mind, it is a win-win for the pharmacy profession. And as a lawyer and a practitioner of pharmacy and medical law, I want to congratulate the profession and to congratulate everybody for this new law. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Barrister Daniel Okosun. We appreciate you. Can we just give him a round of applause wherever we are? Let us appreciate him, because I believe strongly Now we now know what are the penalties and how do we carry ourselves in our conduct as professionals. Thank you. We appreciate you. I know you are still going to be here because several questions are already in the chat room, and some other people too are still itching to ask their question. So stay with us as we go on with this discussion. And at this juncture, I would like to crave the indulgence of everyone in the room to extend this gathering by 10 minutes because we have actually stolen about 10 minutes more out of our timing in this discussion. So right now, I'm going to go right away to pharmacist Dr. Lulujo. He has about just 10 minutes to just give his own perspective on the entire Pharmacy Act. And he has tried to speak about some of the things that he's spoken and some other things he has seen that the speakers today have not spoken. So the floor is yielded to you right now, sir, Dr. Lulujo, for you to just bring your perspective on this discussion. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, my dear friend and brother, Jibade. Let me stand on the existing protocol in order for us to save time. But at the same time, let me appreciate the pharmacist affairs community and leadership for organizing this program. It's quite good. When I was contacted, it came at a time I was preparing for my elder brother's burial. So I was almost begging Ajibade to let this call pass from me, but he insisted. And I thank God he did, because just the preparation that I tried to do today has actually expanded my own knowledge and understanding of the new pharmacy law that is regulating our practice right now. Let me congratulate the entire pharmacy community too for the pharmacy bill, because our expectations were so high, and at a time, virtually all discussions were centered on the signing of the new pharmacy bill into law. So we thank God that it has now been signed, and we are grateful. Just like Pharmacist Ajibade said, my brief was a general one, not specific. And since two baristas have spoken before me, I think the need to go through the new law section by section has been removed. Talking about Barrister Olumide Akintayo, I just got to know today that he's a lawyer, but he's been doing a good job, and we need to be grateful to him. And our dear brother, the PCN legal advisor, he has gone through the relevant sections to educate us. But one thing I want us to know, these legal instruments, whether the PCN Act of 2004 or this new one of 2022, they're actually addressing the same issue, the issues of education, training, practice, regulation, and control. So it is important that we know this. To me, having read through and did a comparative analysis between what we have now and what we used to have, I can say confidently, and with all emphasis at my command, and the confirmation of what Barrister Okosun just said, that this new pharmacy law is good for us. It is a template, a platform, a foundation through which we can actually change the narrative for our profession. But my comment really, we sit on what we need to do to ensure that this pharmacy bill work for us. Because as a whole, Nigeria, we are very good when it comes to policy formulation or development, drafting of rules, regulation, law, as we have done now. It's fantastic, very good. We go through. Virtually all the things that we have complained about had been addressed, especially now that the PCN have a much bigger umbrella that covers everybody, because that is what we want. So we are so good at drawing up policy, laws, regulations. But the challenge has always been execution. And this is what I will want to point our attention to. Everything that we need to have, we have them. I don't want to repeat that. But how do we ensure that this one is executed properly? And it starts from us. And when I say us, pharmacists, it starts from us, pharmacists. And that is the reason why I want us to have a little discussion around the profession and the professional. Very important. The profession, what are those things that you are expecting? Expertise. Yeah, that is what makes you a professional, because it means that you have certain knowledge, skill, competencies that make you to be able to perform certain functions that only people who have been trained like you have been trained or exposed to what you have been exposed to can do the same thing. So when you're talking about the profession, expertise coming one first. And expertise in this case is a perishable item, in which case it must be maintained. There must be continuous development so that you keep on, keep it current and effective. Trust. And that is what Mr. Solimide and Barrister Okosun said. All this has been done for the interest of pharmacy. No corporate company without at least 40% share belonging to a pharmacist will be allowed to run a retail pharmacy. So that trust will be there that the pharmacists that we approach PCN for the registration will be the one that is trusted. But me and you know, even with the whole act, it's not true. We see our colleagues flouting these rules over and over again. Development is key. Every minute, all of us, like I've written many times before, we should always remember that we are first and foremost scientists. Before you start practicing as a community pharmacist, hospital pharmacy, industrial pharmacy, or wherever you are. And as a scientist, you must constantly be updated. Values. What are those values that represent the profession? And that is all these things are the things that we combine to make us to be able to bring this new law into what is going to benefit the profession. So we will talk about services. Now, when you're talking about the professional, that's the person now, you know, the skill, leadership, the character, the duty, you know. When we say now they are in this new law, it is clearly stated that the pharmacy must be operated under the supervision and superintendency of a pharmacist. That's a lot. And it is not just that title that we should embrace, the responsibility that it carries. The responsibility that it carries. And that is why we cannot, again after this, start complaining about what people are doing, because the law states you, as the superintendent pharmacist, you are in charge. Now let's go to the wide power that has been granted the inspectors in this new law. You know, it has now said everywhere, all space where drug is being dispensed must be inspected by the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria. And the inspectors have been empowered to do a lot of things. Again, this space that we are talking about, the private hospitals are involved. Now, how are we going to ensure that this is done? Is it going to be a frontal attack? What are we going to do? Do we need some form of advocacy here? How do we even educate these guys who, for years, have taken it for granted that it is their right to have a pharmacy within their hospital? Most of them are registering now because of NHIS condition. Otherwise, before now, they don't register. And they have a pharmacy that is bigger than most of the community pharmacies that we see around. Now, if we want to now execute this, what is the pathway to ensure that we can get the best for pharmacy? So The pharmacy technician is the next one that I want to look at. I've always believed, and I said it over and over again, and it has been proved today because Barrister Okosun spoke so well in favor of pharmacy. I've always said that the word of pharmacy is bigger than the word of pharmacist. Now, the technicians have been incorporated into the habit of PCN regulation. How do we ensure that there's a career path for them, both in public and in private setting? Our community pharmacists now, how do we ensure that we can employ them and make them feel that truly they belong to this new big umbrella called Pharmacy Council? So these are things that we need to do to ensure that they are in there. I've mentioned superintendent pharmacy, and this is one part that we can use really to make sure that pharmacy of our dream can come to us. If truly our people will be superintendent pharmacy. It is not a good topic that people want to hear, but it is true. This register and go thing is one element that is destroying our profession. Now the new law has said it, that the pharmacy must be under the superintendency of a pharmacist. So if you are not there, how will that law be operated? So it is clear claim that we need to know. The other one is drug distribution. Now that the law has given the PCN the power, the leverage, the authority, to regulate and control any place, anywhere where drug is being done. What are we going to sold? What are we going to do to the existing, open market operation? How are we going to approach it? What are we going to do? I mean, will it be given to a fiat part and say, okay, from tomorrow, this open market cease to exist? What part are we going to use? I think this is one area where PSN that has been involved all along can be of use to PCN. Finally, and Pastor Okosun had already mentioned it, resources. We know very well that so many things that NAFDAC should do, at the same time, so many things that PCN should do, but do they have the resources to be able to do it? If they do, fine. But if they don't, in what way can we assist them? Then there is the willpower. And that is why I will appeal to Barrister Okosun here to please pass this message on to our registrar, to the chairman, that it behoves on them to ensure that what we have on paper is translated to tangible thing in reality, in real practice, because that is the only way we can now enjoy the benefit that this new pharmacy law should confer on us. Once again, I want to thank pharmacy staff here calling me and giving me this opportunity to make this brief comment. Thank you so much, and God bless a lot.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful contribution on the subjects. And you have actually pointed on some areas that borders on pharmacists and our preparation to ensure that this new law is well seated in our practice. Thank you. We appreciate you. Now, the last discussion will be coming from pharmacist Chiedu Modi, and he's also a barrister. So today is a barrister's affair, and he's going to also be making his own contribution in 10 minutes. Barrister Chiedu Modi, you are welcome, sir. Kindly unmute your mic, sir, so that you can be heard, sir. Thank you. Sir, can you kindly unmute your mic, sir, Barrister Chiedu Modi, FPSN? Cannot hear you. Your mic is muted. Barrister Modi, we cannot hear you. Kindly unmute your mic. Oh. We are not hearing Barrister Modi. If you are speaking, we cannot hear you, sir.
Are you sure it's with the phone?
While we are trying to get back to him, I think we can quickly just get around some of these questions in the chat room and some that have been sent to me personally, because people have been sending some questions to me also, so that we can quickly gain time on our side. I'm going to reach out to him again, but while we are doing that, I want us to begin to look at some of the questions. And this question goes generally, and we'll start from some that I have, then we'll go to the chat room. And if anybody has any question, please put on the chat room so that we can save time in trying to ask questions and the network issue. This question is, what is the penalty for companies? Oh, we can hear you now. Okay, we can hear you now, so we can go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. Well, I'll take the bits and pieces left here and there. All the same, I'll try to make my contribution. I want to thank all the people that contributed in this process of giving us a new act, which is a new lease of life in the pharmacy profession. The totality of pharmacy practice, to a large extent, will now pass through pharmacies. It has never been like this before. The repealed Pharmacy Act, or the PPA, allowed in practice of pharmacy by all and sundry through the intervention or interference of body corporates. But the new act has completely taken that off. It has also strengthened the practice of pharmacy generally, particularly community pharmacy, because there is no more issue of the controversial private pharmacies in public health institutions. That is a big plus for the practice of pharmacy. Well, the new act is going to place a lot of pressure on staff and the facilities they have. They will need the support of everybody, and also they have to do a lot of hard work to meet the demands. They now have so much to do. They now have so much authority to do what they're expected to do. And another pressure will be that they will have no excuse, because they have the authority, they have the power, and they even have the protection. The pharmacist inspection officer is not only empowered to go into anywhere he suspects that there's an infraction of the pharmacy law, he is also protected that anybody who attempts to hinder him is guilty an offense. Well, the offenses chapter is a thing of joy, because they are quite heavy, and they are enough to dissuade people from trying. But I have a concern that when such offenses are, when you have that kind of magnitude of fines, there's a tendency for the operators to be compromised. Well, I know that we are men of honor, and that will not apply to pharmacy. However, it is a concern, because we know what the LASMA, BESMA, and all the people who charge 150,000 naira for traffic offense get. Okay, you give me 100, because if you get to where I'm taking you, you pay 150,000. That kind of nonsense. I hope that the people that operate this law be mindful of that temptation and serve the profession and the profession The new law is a lot of improvement on the administration of the council. Hitherto, there was no clear leadership or power structure or organogram in the council. But without doubt now, the leadership is clear. The secretary is the chief executive officer and the chief accounting officer. And he does not take dictation from anybody. And so, however, he can be controlled and regulated by the council. The distinction is that it cannot be controlled and regulated by anybody. It is only the council. If, however, the registrar allows himself to be dictated to by an individual, that must be a self-inflicted injury. Section 5 subjects the power of the registrar to the supervision and control of the council. The registrar having been given so much power to remove names, add names, such power has to be controlled, and that is through the intervention of the supervision and control of the registrar. The registrar, in accordance with the rules made by the council, shall keep various registers. That is that is the responsibility that carries a lot of caution. He has the power to include men and to remove men. But that piece of legislation gave it a human face, because it doesn't allow the registrar to be erratic. For instance, there are cases where somebody puts up an application for registration, and you turn it down. It is incumbent on the registrar to communicate the applicant, give the reason for rejecting his application, and then give him opportunity to make a submission. And it can go on to a point where the person whose application is rejected has to apply to the council directly. And legislation went further to say that the council has to respond to that petition, verbal or in person or by letter, within 3 months. My worry is with the number of people that may be coming up with such queries, whether the council will be able to cope with the demand of such intervention, because they have to meet within 3 months. The other good aspect of the act is the power or the exclusivity of the given to the pharmacy in community pharmacy practice. It now clearly, in pleasant, unambiguous, it is only a registered pharmacy that can own and operate a retail pharmacy. It is wonderful. Like one of my co-speakers has said, it will be very disappointing if we now have saboteurs who will connect and put in false information to this requirement. But they must be warned, as it has been done previously, that the consequences are unbearable. Are unbearable. So nobody should try it because they cannot handle the consequences. What else is left to be communicated on? Part of the consequences of giving false impression is the fine. If you want to make us criminal misrepresentation in the administration of state honesty, your fine will not be 2 million, will not be 5 million. Your fine will be the value of the share you pay to own. Whether it is $2 million or it is 100 million naira, that will be fine, or 2 years imprisonment or both. This in itself is enormous. And so people must resist from going there at all. It is not working. The pharmaceutical professional officers, as we said, are fully equipped and empowered to do their job. And I hope that the privileges or the powers given to them will not be abused, because we know that the power in states and corrupt.
Oh, you can kindly round up in 2 minutes, sir.
Well, what else is left? I look at the power that give the council the right to make regulations. That is an area of concern to me. Prima facie, it will look as if that the council can make regulation on everything that has been listed in the act. But they have to be cautious, because regulation cannot override the substantive law, and we should avoid it. The program of safety that has gone to the Supreme Court to show that you cannot change the form of the law by regulation. And what comes to mind is what hitherto was the dichotomy between retail pharmacy and wholesale pharmacy. But from all I can say, there is no such dichotomy, because the only thing you need as a retail pharmacy is that you are
we can make sense of this.
so we can own and operate a pharmacy. And part of the job, part of their function as a community pharmacy includes dispensing, retailing, wholesaling, and the part of the of that says that and any other pharmaceutical activity is part of what the retail pharmacy can do. And I hope that regulation will not derogate from these rights of the community pharmacy. By the legislation, no regulation can derogate from what the Act authorizes the community pharmacy to do. This is the issue of dichotomy between retail and wholesale pharmacy for the community pharmacy. Well, and ICON has already promised that. So there's no, I don't have any.
Mrs. Modi, your mic is far away.
Not 10 minutes is rather too short to know all the time, but maybe some other things will come up during question and answer. So, I will now wait for specific questions that the maybe want to debate on some of the points. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are much appreciated, and you have also added you have added your points to the discussion on ground. Now we are going right away to the question session, and we're going to be very brief. And this question has been sent, and there are also other questions in the chat room. And I'll be directing some of these questions because I'll be picking them as regards to people. Like this one will be going to the PCN legal officer. And the question is, what is the penalty for companies supplying illegal premises with pharmaceutical products? That's the first leg of the question. The second question is that, can this be seen as professional misconduct on the part of the superior pharmacist of that company? That's the question that has been sent to me. What is the penalty for companies supplying illegal premises? Because every premises need to be registered. So what is now the penalty for companies supplying illegal premises? And will this now also will be seen as professional misconduct on the part of the superior pharmacist of that company? That is a question to the PCN legal officer. Another part of the question is on the appointment of the registrar. You mentioned that it is the council that appoint the registrar. But what happens if the tenure of the registrar has been out and the council is not in place? What happens to the seat of the registrar? So those two questions are to you, the legal officer, Barrister Daniel. Quickly just help us answer those questions as we go to other questions. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. It's the penalties is quite clear. If you supply fake drugs, is it fake drugs or unregistered premises? The line was breaking. I couldn't really hear most of what you were saying.
Okay, the question is, what is the penalty for companies supplying illegal premises with pharmaceutical products?
It's the same thing. If you deal with an unregistered premises, the law under even general offenses carries it. It's 2 million naira, as an offense, as a breach of the law. Then the superintendent pharmacies. Now, I need to state this here, that this act actually puts a lot of responsibility on the superintendent pharmacies. And so the superintendent pharmacies will be called to question to answer why the premises or the company he is superintending is dealing with an unregistered premises. Mind you, we have stated that an unregistered premises is an illegal premises, and those that hold themselves out to that they are registered or practice as pharmacy when they are not pharmacy, when they are not registered with the council, that they have committed an offense. Therefore, any superintendent pharmacist who is in charge will be called to question as to whether this amounts to professional discipline. Oh yes, it does amount to professional discipline. But as in professional misconduct, but whether it will be taken as far as disciplinary tribunal is a question for the panel, and also for the wordings of the law, the regulations that will be brought out as regards the investigating panel and also the disciplinary tribunal. I think that would answer your question.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the second question is, you mentioned, because there's the question sent in, that the appointment of the registrar is basically under the purview of the council. It's not a political appointment. The question is, if the council is not in place and the tenure of the city registrar is out, how will that seat be filled? The seat of the registrar.
Now, immediately the registrar has finished his tenure. It is rendered. It is now vacant and waiting upon upon re-election, or if he has finished the 2 tenures. Now, what the law does not leave vacuum. There are always, should I say, machinery in place in order for administration of government to flow without vacuum. Now, when the council is not in place, by every form of our administration of our civil service, the minister of health actually has the power to act in that regard till the council is constituted. So you see that most times, once the council is not, like a number of years that we didn't have council, we deferred to the ministry. That's the parent body, the supervising ministry. And so by virtue of that, but the supervising ministry cannot appoint the registrar, please. I'm not saying that they will appoint. They do not have the power. No matter what, they cannot appoint the registrar, but they can give statements, they can give directives and memo as to the next senior director, the most senior director, to hold that position pending the composition of the council. We have seen that as, that's why you see that you have sometimes acting registrar. The person is only acting for the registry until the council makes, appoints for themselves a registrar. So that is the position, and that will naturally go. That's the way to go. That's the way the administration of the council would go if there is no council in place at that time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This question goes to pharmacist Olumide Akitayo, and it borders on satellite pharmacy. And the question is saying, is the satellite pharmacy going to be located in the rural area or semi-rural area? Let me quickly put the question properly. Are they only cited the rural or semi-rural area? And if it has to be registered as spread pharmacies, does it have to be on site or only go for supervisory functions? So that is to pharmacist Olumide Akitayo.
Yeah, well, Chairman and colleagues, basically, it's important to inform that Council is already working on guidelines, approved guidelines for the implementation of some of these new developments, satellite pharmacy, patent medicine vending, and all of that. But the much I know and can offer is that based on what we designed when we were in Law and Ethics Committee in 2014, these premises will be cited like any other pharmaceutical premises, in which case I'm talking about relevant laws like 200 meters radius to existing pharmacy premises. The law, the spirit of what we prescribed with council to a plenary at that time was that even patent medicine vending, beyond this control precedent of, oh, all you need is read and write, it must be given to people who even have some knowledge of drugs, pharmacy technicians. So let pharmacy technicians begin to take care of it, and they would operate those structures in the so-called rural and semi-rural areas. So that's the much I would offer on that. But permit me to add to what the distinguished barrister talked about in the event that the time of the registrar lapses and you do not have, one of the things that has happened now is that there is a certain section 6 that allows secondment from MDAs, relevant MDAs to council. So even if you do not want an acting registrar within council, if there's somebody who is good and experienced, who is familiar with regulatory activities in the Federal Ministry of Health, the such a person can be seconded administratively, even within the ambit of law, to cover up until when you have a substantive registrar.
Thank you so much, sir. Let's quickly look at this question again. And the question, maybe we'll go to either of you, either the barrister or fellow Olumide. What is the status of this new law on open drug markets in terms of enforcement? I mean, this question is, now the new law is here. What kind of enforcement is going to be done on the open drug markets?
Well, if you ask me that question, the open drug markets or the open drug market phenomenon is unlawful within the realm of law, has always been, will always be. Don't forget, the very first law that dealt with the menace of open drug markets was the old Decree 21 of 1988, which has metamorphosed into the Federal Act, a substantive Federal Act of 2004. There was a recent attempt in the House of Representatives to actually tinker with that law, to make it a much stronger law and all that. I think, and I'm sure you're also familiar with the NDDGs, the drift to CWCs and all that. Now, one of the things this law actually promotes is a collaborative spirit in the efforts of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria and NAFDAC to achieve fundamental, far-reaching results for our profession. That is why, for instance, the DG of NAFDAC is now a member of the Pharmacy Council. The chairman of the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria has always been a member of the NAFDAC Government Council. Now, these interactions automatically would allow us to promote team spirit in the implementation of the law. So we'd expect that when the new Fake Drug Act is finally ready, one of the things we have recommended, I represented US at that public hearing, and I'm aware that the PS official paper, for instance, advocated that since the DG NAFDAC will be the chairman, the head of monitoring, the head of inspectorate and PCN should be the vice chairman of the new structure. They're trying to have a new structure, which they now call the Fake and Counterfeit Committee, even though we also advise that the committees suggest something ad hoc. So there are various platforms where these collaborative efforts are being nurtured now, and I pray that they evolve in the years ahead so that it will be a collective responsibility of both the Pharmacy Council and NAFDAC, who are the major principal regulators who have the drug distribution channel.
Okay,
In
thank you,
other
sir.
words, what I'm saying is that the best instrument to deal with that menace is the Fake Drug Act, because Section 2(1) of that law prohibits the sales of drugs in open drug markets, and indeed anywhere that is registered by the what is now known as Pharmacy Council of Nigeria.
Okay, thank you so much. Barrister, do you have any input on that? Before I go to the next question, we have just 2 minutes left in this session.
No, yes, I think that what Mr. Lumide has said, it's in order. We are on the same point, so there's no need to overflow the issue.
Okay, thank you. Now the question is also coming now, and this was one of the queries raised by Barrister Chiedumodi, and the question is that what happens if you suspect a PCN or PIC, a PCN also a PIC that is compromised? What do we do, or what is going to happen? So that is to the barrister. Barrister Okozo, did you hear that question?
Please, can you come again, please?
Okay, the question is, how effective are the PCN officers? Because we know some of them could be corrupt, because I won't want to write this the way it's been posted. What happens if you suspect a PCN officer or a PIC officer that is compromised? What do we do?
Okay, part of our internal mechanism is to actually assign a conflict of interest, non-disclosure, some kind of forms we have developed in line with this new law that will present before the council. They are actually in a way to checkmate some of these human frailties that could arise in discharging your duty as pharmaceutical inspection officer. Now, we cannot say that all inspectors and staff, they are all clean, they are saints. We also understand that the material things can have an allure and make people want to deviate. So council in itself is trying to put certain things in place to checkmate some of these perceived or excesses that could come or arise by virtue of maybe by way of influencing a pharmaceutical inspection officer. Also, for all pharmacists, now we have made it clear, even for staff, that you can face investigating panel and disciplinary tribunal. So once a petition is written, is gotten about any of these perceived fraudulent acts, the person goes straight to the investigating panel and will face the disciplinary measures of the law. That is apart from the fact that council is putting certain measures in place that will definitely pass through the governing council to see that pharmaceutical inspectors are actually checkmated. There's a kind of balance in their practice. Hopefully, in due time, these things will come out, and we hope that it will take care of some of these fears that are coming up.
Well, thank you so much, and I want to appreciate everybody on the call this evening. The time is well spent. We have already exceeded the agreed time, even though we asked for permission to extend it. We are 5 minutes ahead again, and I don't want us to remain here endlessly because there are too many things we cannot finish in this call. I want to appreciate everyone, and I would like to call Pharmacist Foluke Akiniroye to give the vote of thanks as we round up this discussion tonight. Thank you, Pharmacist Foluke Akiniroye.
Yes, good evening, everyone. In fact, it's been a very, very well utilized 2 hours for me. And we have all been well enlightened. It is good that we had how many people, almost about more than 250 participation on this platform at one point. So everybody is interested in knowing what the law says about our noble profession. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our speakers. In fact, we couldn't have chosen anyone more knowledgeable. God bless every one of you. I really appreciate the amount of dedication to this course. And on behalf of Pharmacist Affairs Board of Admin, I would like to say a very big thank you for everyone. Our speakers, our participants, our fellow colleagues, and I pray that this noble profession will serve us well as we continue to be relentless in making sure that our practice is put in the right perspective for us. Our own part is very, very important, and I thank everyone for your presence today. I want to thank our chairman, Board of Affairs. We thank you for your leadership role, and my prayer is that everybody that is a pharmacist and enjoys this profession will indeed reap the good returns of this profession in Jesus' name. Thank you very much. God bless us all, and God bless the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria and all pharmacists. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Thank you for the audience, all our speakers, the questions. The recording and other things will be pushed to the community for more engagement after now. Bye, and thank you.
Thank you very much, and bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. God bless you all. Amen.
Bye.
That was a good one, Professor Ajibade. Well done. Professor Ajibade, well done. It's a very nice one.
Thank you.
Very nice one.
Thank you very much, and have a beautiful day.
So many policemen come there. They've on the run, so we're not quite having played into its side. We're incidentally had 3 goals in 4 appearances against Denmark.